Hey YouTube, it's me for 1000 me, and I am back. I am back from a little hiatus, and during that time I went to Toronto, Canada. Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And I had a blast, utter just great fun. It was so relaxing, and I recommend it to everyone to get out of the country and just go try something new. It makes your senses alert, and I have been planning this trip and wanting to go for almost 2 years. I finally was just like, forget it. There's never a better time than today. So last Saturday, well, 2 Saturdays ago, September 29th, that was my birthday. So I planned a trip around being in a different country, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, on my birthday. And I went alone because I couldn't get all my friends to, get together, and a lot of my friends have children, and so of course their children and significant others and husbands, partners come first. And so I was like, I'm tired of delaying it and delaying it and delaying it. I'm gonna go now. Before, I didn't necessarily want to go in the winter, so I showed up, and I just want to recommend an airline called Porter Airlines. If you're flying out of Chicago, they are awesome. They make 6 flights daily to Toronto. So took one of the flights, and in about an hour and a half I was in Toronto, and it was just amazing. I hadn't been out of the country in about 8 or 9 years, so it was a trip that was well due and well deserved. And there were some noticeable differences that I noticed. I'll get to those. My first day that I got there was on a Friday afternoon, and after I checked my bags, I went directly to the CN Tower. And if you've been watching the recent uploads, I took a lot of pictures from the CN Tower, of the CN Tower. I don't know why I love it. It's like a beacon in Toronto. I think it's the tallest tower in North America. Not building, tower, North America. I think Sears Willis Tower still beats the CN Tower, but let's not stay fixated on that. I went, and it was great to just be that high up and see the whole city from that height. And I think you could see back into the United States, if I'm correct. I think I could see back into New York. That was amazing. And the CN Tower is right next door to the stadium where the Toronto Blue Jays play. So that's awesome as well. And I loved it. The next day, on that Saturday, my birthday. Well, let's go back to Friday. Friday night I had a nice bit of lunch at it was just an Irish pub, and I had fish and chips, and it was really tasty. It wasn't as heavy as fish and chips that I normally like when I normally eat fish and chips here in the States. It wasn't as heavy, so that is a good thing. And the chips, the French fries, were great. I mean, I couldn't finish that whole plate. It was excellent. Then wow, this, I don't want to sound like I'm rambling. On Saturday, I went and saw a couple museums. Bata Museum, Bata Shoe Museum. So it shows you the history of shoes in different cultures. The first shoes made in like India, and the Native Americans here in what is now Canada and the United States, and over in the Middle East, and what may now be like Israel and Lebanon and Syria. And they took it all the way up to present day, like Jimmy Choo and Christian Louboutin and Manolo Blahnik. You know, it was great. And it showed how around the 1920s are when shoes became less utilitarian and more like fashion. And, you know, they did a historical timeline and showed what was happening in the world and why different shoes came to being. Then I went to another museum called the Textile Museum, and in maybe another upload I'm going to show you some of the things I bought. Well, I guess I could show you right now because it's right here. From the Textile Museum, I bought these little like office storage things, and they're so cute, and this is a great color. But let's see, for 29 Canadian dollars, which probably is like that may be like 35 American dollars, don't quote me. 34. And so it was like, at the Textile Museum, it was like tapestries, quilts, you know how you weave together like a poncho or some kind of clothing or coat on the loom. That was very interesting. So I tried to do museums that were atypical of what I'd been doing here in America. Yes, I did go by the ROM, the Royal Ontario Museum, because I think it's designed by Daniel Libeskind, and it has this funky crystal-like type structure or facade. And I went by, oh God, what was that one called? The Art Gallery of Ontario, and it was designed by Frank Gehry. And if you have ever been to Chicago or Cincinnati, Ohio, or Toledo or California, right now Frank Gehry is one of the Starchitects. If you've seen any kind of music, hip-hop video, if you remember Mariah Carey's Sweetheart video where she's like, you can be my sweetheart, we can have a fairy book romance, and she's riding on the motorcycle with the guys, she's riding behind the guy on the motorcycle, and when they pass this silver building, that is the Guggenheim, I believe, in Bilbao, Spain. That's Frank Gehry, if you can't remember. But look him up, Frank Gehry, Gehry, Gehry. So I went and did those museums, and I'll do another upload about my love for Frank Gehry. So I went and saw those, like the outside of those museums, because I'm like, the things that they offered inside were kind of typical, and I wanted to do museums that were atypical. And then I went to a museum, I mean not a museum, but a store called the Cookbook Store, and all they do is sell cookbooks. All they do is sell cookbooks, and that's great, because what was interesting about Toronto is that I saw bookstores. Not that they don't have bookstores in major American cities like Chicago, but you know, after Borders closed up, it's kind of hard to find a big bookstore anymore. I mean, I think we have 2 or 3 Barnes and Nobles here, and we have a few independent bookstores. But it was nice to see this type of independent bookstore, like just devoted to cookbooks. And I'm going to show you what I bought. It is this book called Dirt Candy. It's a cookbook, but it is a cookbook that is designed like a graphic novel or a comic book. And it's by a woman named Amanda Cohen, and she owns a restaurant called Dirt Candy in New York, and it is a vegetarian restaurant. And so I just thought this was a cool way to make a cookbook, because I'm totally into graphic novels, and I will do another I'll do another upload about graphic novels and my love for them. But that was great. And so by that time I had been walking around and doing the subway for about 5 hours. I need to come home, eat, and crash. Let me just side note, Toronto is the birthplace of MAC Cosmetics. So all the MAC stores in Toronto are at least twice as big as any MAC store in here in the States. So you need to go to get the full MAC experience. Like, they're all rather big and rather roomy. Like, oh, I can move. Woo! Oh, I'm not voguing. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So at that point I go home and retire to go to sleep. My birthday, I found a cool place around the corner from where I was staying at a Holiday Inn Express at the corner of Jarvis and Lombard. And it sold gelato. So it was a gelateria, and it also had pizza. Fresh pizza, hand-thrown pizza. So I had my own personal margarita pizza, and I had some gelato, and I had 2 French macaroons. I was in heaven. Nothing could be more or even better than that for my birthday. So here comes the part that I love. It was called Nuit Blanche. It basically was an all-night, all-city art installation exhibit. So they closed down most of the streets in downtown Toronto, and art installations were put up over, I would say over 75, between 75 and 100. And you got to walk in the street and you got to see art installations around the city of Toronto, and it was great. And it went from 7:03 p.m. Toronto time until sunrise the following morning. It was great. It was awesome. So maybe I'll go back next year at the same time for it. I don't know. But it was great. I think I'm going to end this video just so we can not go too long.